Hi, let me tell you a story you may have heard before. It's called The Old Man and His Horse. Once there was an old man who lived in a tiny village. Although poor, he was envied by all, for he owned a beautiful white horse. Even the king coveted his treasure. People offered fabulous price for this horse, but the old man always refused. One morning he found that the horse was not in the stable. All the village came out to see him. "You old fool," they scoffed. "We told you that someone would steal your horse. You could have sold him before he was stolen, but you refused, and now you are left with nothing." The old man responded, "Don't speak too quickly. Say only that the horse is not in the stable. That is all we know. The rest is judgment." The people of village laughed and thought he was crazy. But after 15 days, the horse returned. He hadn't been stolen, but had run into the forest and returned with a dozen wild horses. Once again, the people gathered at the man's house and said, "You're right, and we're wrong. This was not a curse, but a blessing." But the old man responded, "Don't speak too quickly. Say only that a dozen horses returned with him. That is all we know. The rest is judgment." If you read only one piece of a book, then how can you judge the entire book? Maybe the old man is right, they thought to themselves, but deep down they believed he was blessed because he had a son who could now train those wild horses easily and then sell them for a nice profit. The old man had his only son train those horses, but after a few days he fell from one of the horses and broke both of his legs. Once again the village gathered and said, "This was a curse. Your son has broken his legs, and you have no one to help you." The old man responded, "Don't speak too quickly. Say only that my son broke his legs. That is all we know. The rest is judgment." If you read only one page of a book, then how can you judge the entire book? It so happened that a few weeks later, the old man's country engaged in war against a neighboring country. All the young men of the village were required to join the army. Only the son of the old man was excluded because of his legs. Once again, the people gathered around him and said, "You're right. Your son's accident was a blessing. Our sons are going to die, but you still have yours." The old man said this: "No one really knows if it is a blessing or a curse. No one is wise enough to know. Only God knows." So, what does this story teach us? It teaches us not to judge life too quickly. Events that seem good or bad in the moment are often only fragments of a much bigger picture. For example, someone wins the lottery and is suddenly wealthy. Great news, right? Not always. How many times do we hear stories where a windfall like this tears a family apart because of greed and jealousy? It's not uncommon for people in these situations to admit that winning the lottery is the worst thing that ever happened to them. That doesn't mean that if something good happens in your life, you should start wondering where the catch is. When everything is going to collapse on top of you, it just means take things as they come for what they are in the moment. Don't celebrate your wins too loudly, and don't be too upset over your losses. Everything changes. That's life. The only constant in life is change. A powerful positive that comes from this mindset is that when something goes wrong in life, you know that sooner or later things will change. Everything ends and turns around, both good and bad. By staying patient, open, and calm, we learn that wisdom comes from accepting uncertainty and trusting the process of life rather than reacting with fear or judgment. I'd like to hear from you. What's one situation in your life where you are learning to trust the process instead of judging it too quickly? Share your thought in the comment below. Your experience might help someone else today. Then, until next time, stay strong, stay brave, stay in the fight.